in 2017 after having been attending here for just a little over 6 months almost. I was diagnosed with a rare form of breast cancer called triple negative, stage 2A, but still very complex, and I had no idea that I was diagnosed with it or carrying it. The biggest thing that I think was the challenge for me was to have to tell my mom and my sister and my children and go from there. I had not been here long. I came and I went to the front office and I knew Rick, and so I contacted him, and he came right out and I said, I need to speak with you. And I went in and I spoke with him and I told him what happened. And he went and got Pastor Walter, and they came in and they prayed with me. They stopped everything they did and came in and prayed with me and said it's going to be all right. During that transition, lost my housing, pretty much lost everything, but not my hope. Little did I know also, my mother was going to be diagnosed with a late form of lung cancer. The brakes stopped, and I had to, not only between my hospitalizations, at one point gravely ill, but at no given time was I alone through the love of this family at Rocky Butte. Fast forward, my mom did pass, unfortunately, in January, and again, the men of God came through. We had to do it in 2 separate services and the graveside part. And at the last minute, I didn't have enough pallbearers, and I called Rick. And Rick and Brian Whalen and Pastor Walter and one other pastor came out, beat me to the graveyard to carry my mom up and to bury her. And it meant the world to me because I was the oldest and I was the only one out here on the West Coast, still dealing with my cancer, but having to try to support my family and not knowing what was next. You know, the journey truly has been in the last 15 months from my surgery again, making sure, I love you, Diane Madison, who made sure that at 6 a.m. took me to the hospital on February 14th, 2018. And I was going to have to go through this surgery by myself. But Diane came right along, beside my daughter and me. At 6 a.m., I had to be there, so that meant she came in from Washington. She left like 4:30, and all this ice, and made sure that the journey was there. And I went through the surgery, which was a little challenging, but God is good, and He is a healer. And I was declared 7 days later to be cancer-free. Psalms 23, especially the first part where it says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. And thou art with me wasn't just about God being with me, but His people being with me on the journey. He knew I was going to go through all this. Me coming into this church, He knew I would need a family. He knew that I would need my faith would be shaken, yes, in the sense of God's people. It wasn't about God not trusting Him. It's about not trusting the goodness of mankind in the world that we live in now. And He needed to reinforce that as a servant of God, as a believer of God, and as a member of the family of God. I needed to know that. And by me walking through these doors over 15 months ago, not knowing that I would have sisters and brothers and uncles, and that my son, more importantly, would know Him for himself, as my grandmother would say, get to know Him for yourself, and that I'm at peace, and knowing that my mother's at peace, and that the best is yet to come.